Frostpunk is the Dark Souls of city builders. Wait, okay, look, I know your mouse just started moving for the X in the corner, but just hear me out, okay? I'm not saying that because the game is hard. I mean, it is hard, but it's not just that, okay? Hear me out. Greetings, workers and engineers. My name is Kamikaze, and you might be asking, why am I making this video 6 years after the game came out? Because Frostpunk 2 is coming out next month. And this is one of my favorite games of all time, so I think people should check it out before the sequel comes out. And also, I didn't have a YouTube channel 6 years ago. So the obvious question, if you've never played it, what is Frostpunk? Well, the non-obvious answer is that it is a hardcore strategy-based city builder that takes place after a snowy apocalypse. And I know the term hardcore city builder is not a term you hear every day. It's almost paradoxical. City builders are usually calm sandbox games where you can build the city of your dreams however you want. Not Frostpunk. There's no challenge, you go at your own pace. Not Frostpunk. They're a very relaxing, chill experience. This is a game with a story, with deadlines, and also fail states. You can, and probably will, lose the game. I hesitate to even call it a city builder because that comes with so many, connotations, but this doesn't really have that much in common with your typical SimCity affair, other than, the fact that you build a city. But even if you don't like city builders, which I usually don't, this game is very much worth checking out. Just trust me, okay? The year is 1886, and Mount Krakatoa has just erupted. The Earth has been blanketed in a thick layer of ash, which has ushered in a new ice age. Civilization has collapsed, and the world has effectively ended. There is one small ray of hope, though. Some people foresaw this, and hired companies to build these massive generators that, when powered by coal, could heat and power a small city all on their own. You are the leader of a group of survivors from London who happen to stumble across one of these generators and decide to claim it as your own. And if you thought aimlessly wandering through a frozen wasteland searching for one small building in an entire country would be the hard part, you would be wrong, because now the city must survive. So like your typical city builder, you place down roads, buildings, collect resources, etc. But while the mechanics are the same, the difference is very much in the stakes. You're not sending your people to forage berries on a warm, sunny day. You're sending them to dig coal with their bare hands, and it's minus 30 degrees, and now they've got horrible frostbite and you have to amputate their legs. But that's a risk that you have to take, because without coal, the generator stops. And if the generator stops, you all die. Simple as that. And even worse, it keeps getting colder. The game starts off at a delightful, balmy -20 Celsius, but then it quickly drops to -30, and then -40. And, it'll go up a little bit here and there, but over the whole game, it steadily keeps getting colder. Luckily, your engineers are some pretty smart folks, and you can upgrade pretty much everything. And this is where the real gameplay is. Every upgrade is good, and this game is fantastic at making you kind of regret all of your choices. Everything is important, and you just don't have enough resources to do everything. Your most important resource is coal, because coal is what keeps the generator running. But you also need wood and steel to build things. You need steam cores to build fancier things. You need food to feed your citizens, and your citizens themselves are a resource. It takes a bunch of people to run a coal mine, and you don't have very many survivors. There's also the problem of the generator. It kind of sucks. It only produces a little bit of heat, and it only affects a small area. So you want to make it produce more heat, or affect a bigger area, or allow it to go into overdrive. Well, upgrade it. But wait, if I upgrade the generator to be more powerful, wouldn't it then require more coal to power? Yes it does. Well, you need more coal then. Well, then you'll need more wood and steel for houses for more people, and you'll need more food to feed all of those people. Then get some upgrades to produce more food. Great, well, you'll need more engineers to research faster because you can't fall behind on those generator upgrades. Everything in this game is this very delicate balance of trying to allocate your resources to where you need them most. It's very stressful. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not a relaxing game. There's more though. Your people aren't just resources, they're people with, emotions and stuff. So on top of making sure they don't starve to death or die of disease or cold, you also have to manage their hope and discontent, represented in convenient video game meter form. People are cold and hungry? Well, discontent will rise and hope will fall. Build a bar where people can, hang out and relax after work. Well, discontent will drop. Great. Finish a crucial upgrade that improves the generator. Hope will rise a little bit. If discontent gets too high, or hope drops too low, bye-bye. You live in the snow now. Trying to manage your people is where laws come in, though. As the mayor, you get to pass new laws, and this whole system is really cool. Laws unlock all kinds of new stuff that, for the most part, influence hope and discontent, either positively or negatively when you unlock stuff. These laws start out pretty innocently. Things like overtime, child shelters, hospice for people with amputations. As you progress further, though, there are some more unsavory things. Things like brothels, child slavery, triage. And in this case, triage instantly kills 1/4 of your sick people, so keep that in mind. And this is all just the first law book. Eventually, you get a second one. I won't spoil it, but partway through the game, a bad thing happens. That bad thing leads to everybody being very unhappy, and you as the mayor get to choose the direction of your city. Do you choose the path of discipline or of faith? These are pretty cool, introducing a whole bunch of new policies that, much like the base law book, start out fairly innocent with things like neighborhood watch, and eventually progress into slightly more horrifying things. Not slightly, they're quite horrifying. And you have to deal with the morality of these laws. Yes, a propaganda center is something that sounds very bad, but when hope is so low and it's -80 and your people all hate you, you might have to take some drastic measures here and there. I will say one of the only big flaws that I have with the game is that Order and Faith are very similar. You won't really notice this on your first playthrough because they're both it feels great the first time, but then if you decide to play the game again and you pick the other one, they're almost the same thing, just Faith is the same thing but religious themed. And yes, that really is the biggest criticism I can find of this game, that two options are kind of similar and it might bug you a bit on repeat playthroughs. Suck it, 18-bit, you only made a game that's almost perfect. Now, I said at the beginning of this video that this game is the Dark Souls of city builders, but I haven't really said why yet. Well, what is the Dark Souls formula? What made Dark Souls so great? And no, I don't mean hack and slash gameplay. I mean, what is the essence, the core of Dark Souls, beyond bonfires and a stamina bar? I would argue that the 4 pillars of what made Dark Souls so great are a tough but fair challenge, a depressing atmosphere, exploration, and powerlessness. This is why Hollow Knight is more like Dark Souls than something like The Surge, despite it being a 2D platformer. Also, I just want to say, obviously there were games that did this before Dark Souls, you know, like Shadow of the Colossus follows this formula pretty much to a T. Dark Souls is just the one that, you know, caught on, alright? Nobody would have clicked on this video if I said Frostpunk was the Shadow of the Colossus of city builders. Like Shadow of the Colossus, though, Frostpunk beautifully nails all 4 of these categories. Yep, the game is hard. The cold is unrelenting. It hits you hard and fast. You have to manage your resources very tightly, keep up with the upgrades, find food, and do all of this in a way that doesn't make your people hate you. I mean, they will hate you, but not hate you so much that they throw you out into the snow. You'll probably lose on your first try, but that's okay. This game does perhaps the greatest job of building atmosphere of any video game I've ever played. Everything, from the voice acting, what little of it there is, to the visuals, the sound effects, the writing, even the UI, are genuinely perfect. Everything lends itself to this industrial steampunk world that has just been frozen over. Everyone is just desperately trying to claw out one more day in this terrible, horrible place. But I want to give an extra special shout out to the soundtrack of this game. It's incredible. It was done by composer Piotr Musail, which I probably butchered, and I apologize for that. But it's this big orchestral symphony that just radiates despair. It won a bunch of awards at the time, and deservedly so. It is magnificent. Scouts are cool. These dudes will go out into like minus 70 degrees Celsius weather. They'll take no food or shelter, they don't take breaks, and they trek around this frozen wasteland to discover all kinds of stuff. The large part of the story progress is your scouts. They'll find survivors, food, resources, information, then they come back, drop it off at your city, and head straight back out. There's a ton of stuff to find all over the world map. You probably won't see it all in a single playthrough, and all of it is very, very important. I probably need to come up with a catchier name for pillar number 4, but that doesn't make it less important. And in Frostpunk, oh boy, are you ever powerless. The apocalypse isn't coming. It's already here. You're just trying to survive. You're not beating the weather, alright? You're just trying to hang in. There is absolutely no illusion that you're going to win, per se. You just want to not die. Again, the whole thing is just, it's a stressful game. It will beat you down and wear you out, and it throws some really nasty curveballs at you in the process. I love it. And all of this that I've just described is the first scenario. There are 6. Well, I guess 7 if you count endless mode. Which actually, okay, so that's a bit misleading. A New Home, which is the main scenario, is the main story. It is the biggest, longest, most fleshed out scenario. The game shipped with 3 other ones and the aforementioned endless mode, and 2 of them came out as DLC. So I'll talk about the other base scenarios quickly, starting with the arcs. It's basically A New Home, but it's shorter, and you have to keep these special buildings, arcs, warm the whole time. And also you get lots of automatons. It's neat, it's worth a playthrough if you want some more Frostpunk. The Refugees. It's like A New Home, but shorter, and you have huge influxes of refugees showing up every couple days. So you get lots of labor, but they bring their own problems, discontent and sickness, and there's this whole subplot about the lords who had previously oppressed these refugees are coming afterwards, and you have to deal with all of the social ramifications. Again, it's pretty neat, worth a playthrough. It's alright. The Fall of Winterhome. Definitely the best of the 3 extra ones with the base game. You start as the freshly appointed mayor of Winterhome, and oh my god, everything's on fire. Literally and figuratively. Half the city's burned down, people are about to revolt, and you are fresh out of pretty much everything you would need to fix it. This scenario is really hard. Definitely the hardest one. You get thrown straight into the deep end. You will lose in minutes if you don't immediately start cleaning stuff up. It also just feels like the one that had the most effort put into it. There's more stuff going on. It even has its own cutscene. My god. It's not super long, but it feels longer than it is because you're probably going to have to restart like 6 times. I really like this scenario. Definitely recommend giving it a shot. And then we reach the DLCs. On the Edge is kind of a scam. That's probably a bit harsh, but it's not great. It's like, it might be the worst scenario in the whole game, which, to be fair, it's a high bar, but still. And it also might be the shortest. Basically, you've got a little city on the edge, of a cliff. And the gimmick is that you only get 1 resource, and then you have to trade it with some other settlements for the other resources. I don't hate it. It's interesting, but like, I wouldn't spend money on it. If you got it in a bundle or something like I did, then, give it a shot, but it's nothing special. And then we reach the big one, The Last Autumn. It is by far the best and biggest scenario outside of A New Home. It actually might even be longer than A New Home, and it completely switches up the whole formula. It is a prequel, and look, it's not even cold. This takes place before the snowpocalypse, and you play as the foreman or engineer for a company overseeing the construction of one of the generators. And let me tell you, this one also not easy. And this one's even worse because it kind of, unlike Winterhome, which just throws you straight into the deep end, this one sort of lulls you into a false sense of security because it starts off very calm. And you've got lots of time to, figure out the mechanics, but then it just ramps things up as deadlines mount and the cold eventually arrives. The main differences are that you have docks, where you get a lot of your resources from. You have a telegram to, the company back in London, which is how you get new workers. Your workers will go on strike because those entitled good-for-nothing jerks don't like working 14-hour shifts in a toxic mine. How dare they? Because the big balance now centers around worker safety and building efficiency. Shorter shifts are safer, but you're gonna get less done. Safety profiles, gonna make things safer, but they cost a lot of resources to make. Hope has been replaced with motivation, which will either speed up or slow down your efficiency, depending on how high it is. And once again, you have a law book, except it's not really rules, it's more like construction guidelines, I guess. Like A New Home, these start off pretty innocent and get increasingly horrifying the further you go into the book. And the neat thing about this is that The Last Autumn really only works as a prequel. It couldn't have been its own game. Because when you're putting your workers through all of these horrible situations, and you're pushing them further and further, despite them suffering, you know why. You know the stakes. In a meta sense, you the player. You've played the main game, so you know what's coming. Your workers don't. It's not negative 50 degrees. They just think you're a horrible boss. And it's brilliant. I love it. That being said, because they don't know why, they just think you suck, and they'll go on strike if you make things too horrible, and now no progress is being made. And that sucks, because you have deadlines. If you don't meet your deadlines, you're gonna get fired. Sucks to be you. Also, much like the first game, a bad thing happens, and you gain access to a second law book. This time choosing to side between either the workers or the engineers. And to my delight, unlike A New Home, these two actually play out very differently, and they're both really cool. And yes, don't worry, they both take horrible turns. Last Autumn is pretty amazing. I'm not gonna go into every mechanic here. Definitely worth like the $15 or however much it costs. It's really great. So I've slobbered all over this game enough, so I'm gonna stop here. I'm starting to feel like I should get paid for this, which I won't be, but I genuinely really like this game, so give it a shot. Frostpunk 2 is coming out soon. I'm very excited. I'll almost certainly make a video on that when it drops. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. If you've already played Frostpunk, let me know your thoughts on it. Leave a comment. And if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Goodbye.